Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, 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 everybody. Come on in. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody doing okay? Let's see what we've got in here. We got Frankie and Innocent and Audrey Presley, Jessie. No, I don't have an interview with her, but Nancy Grace does. And I'm going to be playing that. I put it in the description that Nancy Grace is doing an interview with her. Hey, Crystal Bambridge. Michelle Tucker, Rhonda Lynn, Crystal Bambridge, Peppermint Patty, Tina Bobina, Believe, Laura P, Andrew, Dustin Andrew, Christy Kitts, Crystal, Always Late, Robin Redmond, Rhonda Lynn, Rocker Girl, Cool Gamer, Lori P, Zigzag, Fonda Cheese Man, Believe, Innocence, hello. Kiki's Eyes, Mickey, Pam Filer, Denise, Zigzag, Sleuth Fairy, Robin Redmond, come on in, come on in, come on in. Dale Talley, hello, hello, hello. Come on in, everybody. Hey, Debbie Nelson. Hey, 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 hey. How y'all doing tonight? I did want to bring you all a little bit of an update on this case. Misty Ray. Nancy Grace actually did an interview with Audrey Cunningham's. Hey, Jean Lewis, Diamond Creations. Um, with um um her mother. So I'm going to be going over that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the case. If any of y'all of my mods could put out the copyright disclaimer I put in the description the link to Nancy Grace's the channel, the YouTube channel. So if anybody could do that, I saw that on YouTube but haven't watched it yet. Well, we're gonna watch it here. Right here is I'm gonna put the disclaimer back out here. Uh, Credit to Nancy Grace. If anybody can put the copyright disclaimer out for me, that would be much obliged. Thank you, Sleuth Fairy. But I don't want to just give up on this case because it's still sad and the little girl needs justice. I mean, I know they've arrested him, but just the things, the thought, people needs to realize that this is credit to Nancy Grace that they can't just leave their children with people that comes from prison. And this man was from prison. He was a creep. He was just horrible. And this little girl was exposed to him. And as I showed the other day, the picture of her where she was sitting at the table, they were all out to eat with, her dad and her grandmother. She was sitting very, very far away from this guy. So I think that he'd either been trying to, thank you, Sleuth Fairy. He'd either been trying to, hey, Brown Bear, mess with her allegedly before this, or she just got creeped out from him. But, I do believe that, okay, Diamonds, I do believe that the little girl knew something was up with him, and maybe she had learned to trust him as he groomed her throughout the months that he was there. I think they said like 6 months he'd lived there. Didn't take this monster long, did it? There's also a video of him stripping down naked in the prison. She had no mother in her life. I know. I don't know the reasons why her mother was not allowed to be in her life, but it had to be pretty significant for her not to even be able to see her child. I do feel like this is kind of like a Harmony Montgomery situation, other than her father didn't unalive her. Her father neglected to keep her safe, in my opinion, away from this monster. But the mother waited, 4 years. She hadn't seen her baby. Why? I don't know. But we're going to hear from her side of the story. I think it's important to hear about how this guy tried to trick her into seeing coming down there. And I really ultimately believe that he was going to try to make it look like he was going to get the mother to go down there to the river, meet him. He was going to unalive her and make it look like it was a suicide. I'm pretty upset for my sister. She's so upset because her husband has dementia. My sister looked up the type today and life expectancy is 5.8 years. Could any of you say a prayer? Yes, we'll pray for your sister and her husband in Jesus' name because God can restore. And so don't give up. You know, just keep speaking life over your your wife's or your sister's husband in Jesus' name. Hey Cam, of course I'll pray for your sister. Yes, pray for her sister and her husband. So I'm going to let y'all hear a little bit of, I'm going to have to stop this periodically because of copyright, but I do want to let you all hear some of this interview and I'm going to talk about it. Okay, here we go. Nancy.
Calls him, of course. And she
So let's go back to the beginning of the interview. Here we go.
Taken care of. How in the hay do you believe this happened, Miss Matthews?
I don't understand how it happened at all. I don't understand how they put so much effort into keeping her from me, but they couldn't put the same effort into knowing the people that they had around her.
Miss Matthews, what happened when you discovered that Audrey was missing? How did you find that out? Or did you know that before you found out that
Hey,
she had been killed?
coupon mama.
So it was Thursday evening. I'm gonna say it was like 7 o'clock. Um, Tabitha herself had gone and contacted or went to the home of my fiance's mother and was asking her if she knew where we were, if we were there, and had said Audrey was missing. Now his mother instantly calls him, of course, and she she makes her get on the phone with me, and she's telling me that she's missing and asking me if I had seen her. And of course, no, I haven't seen her. I honestly wanted to ask her if it was a sick joke, but I didn't. And I'm used to a
Hey,
lot of
cold water. Hey, Yaney.
crazy things from that family. So
Hey, Becky Angel.
so when she said no, she's missing.
So, Cassie, you said that the paternal grandmother, Tabitha, went knocking at your fiance's mom's door looking for Audrey. Did they call you immediately?
Of course, my fiance's mom called him instantly, and
Hey,
she
senior.
told him that I needed to be on the phone ASAP. And then she put Tabitha on the phone and made her talk to me.
Okay, I do want to say Tabitha is the grandmother of Audrey. The guy was actually with her. He was actually at when the 911 calls, he was with the grandma. When the grandma called 911, um, the perpetrator was actually with the grandma. Here we go.
Why didn't she
She,
want? I mean, I would think she would have called you first. Had they been blocking you seeing Audrey?
I haven't had any type of contact. I had the last bit of contact that I had with Josh, where I was once again begging to see my daughter in any way that made him or her comfortable. Whatever I needed to do, I had to do that through my fiance's messenger.
So the grandma shows up at your fiance's mom's place looking for Audrey. Then your fiance's mom has her call you. And what did she say?
She tells me that she's missing. She didn't make it home off the bus. Asked me if I had seen her, which that's a crazy question because you haven't allowed me to see her in so long. Um, and after that, I had told her about how Stephen had messaged me strangely out of the blue the night before, and that I would share the messages with her. And then I asked her where Stephen was, and she went from
Are
a
you referring
hysterical
to the
state.
defendant, the murder defendant, Don Stephen McDougal, age 42? Is that who you're referring to?
Yes, that's who I'm referring to.
Hey,
When they
pretty,
asked where's
pretty.
Audrey, what did you say?
I, of course, told them I haven't seen her. And in my mind, I wanted to snap and tell her, of course, I haven't seen her. You and your son haven't let me see my daughter in how long now? But I didn't because I instantly wanted to know where my daughter was. That was the thing that took over. I
Now
waited on officers.
you also asked the grandma, where is Stephen? And we know
Yes,
that to
I
be
did.
Stephen
I had
McDougal.
told her about
Why?
him messaging me. I had told her about him messaging me out of the blue the night before, and told her that he had said to me that he was going to take her to school that morning. And I asked her where he was and had she seen him. And she went from hysterical to stuttering. I got
This guy is extremely, extremely creepy. Could you imagine this little girl in the hands of this monster? Disgusting.
to go.
You told me earlier she went from calm to hysterical.
No, 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 no. She went from hysterical to stuttering. And she had to go.
Oh, as soon as she realized that Stephen McDougal had been with
Yes,
Audrey, she had to go and hung up the phone.
it was her stuttering the word. She didn't have anything else to say other than I gotta go. Now in the 911 call, you can clearly hear him in the background.
Guys, we are speaking with Cassie Matthews. This is Audrii Cunningham's mother. What happened after that? After she hangs up, what do you do?
I I'm about to melt down. I hit my knees. I prayed. My fiance is sitting there trying to comfort me, but I didn't even want him to touch me. I didn't understand what was going on. I'm pacing a rut in my house, just wondering where she could be, where I could look, what I could do. I'm waiting for the officers. When officers finally showed up, they asked if they could search my home, and of course, I asked them if I needed to step outside, whatever made them more comfortable. But I wanted them to go ahead and get that done and start looking for my baby. Now, I tried to ask a couple questions, and they just kind of looked at each other after they searched and were like, "Okay, it's all clear. Let's move on," and then left. Nobody really answered any questions for me for a long time.
What was the next thing that happened in your world?
Well, the next thing that happened was I am being advised that it would probably be best, well, advised, but not advised, which makes no sense to me, but that is what has been said, that I should stay put in my own home. And then shortly after,
I'll be damned. I'll be damned if my daughter was missing. Uh, hey, Sherry Spoken. If my daughter was missing, exit Siri.
Okay. I found this on the web for Hey Sherry Broken if my daughter was missing exit
Oh
Siri.
my
Check it
goodness,
out.
Siri, quit. Okay, if my daughter was missing and the cops told me to stand still, no, especially if a creep had sent me a message. I would, when he sent that message, I would have loaded up and found out where my daughter was. I would ask why this man is messaging me about my daughter. I thought if she had that much suspicion, why didn't she do that? I don't get it.
after that, me, my fiance, and the roommate that we have at the time, we're getting picked up by the sheriff's office and investigators. We go and we spend, I think it was almost 16 hours up there. Now the entire time I'm being asked 20 million questions that I'm able to answer with no problem. They keep trying to say to me, I feel like there's something you're not telling us. I feel like there's something you're not telling us. Well, finally, I
Okay, hold
snapped
on.
for a second.
Who took you where?
The sheriff's department, and they had a few of the investigators with them. They took us up to
Took you
the
where?
Polk County Sheriff's Department.
So you were there, your fiance was there, and your roommate was there, and they were peppering you with questions really about where's Audrey? When have you last seen her? Did you take her? Did you hide her? Questions of that
And
nature,
about the
correct?
messages between Stephen and I from the night before. And they were asking me if
Yes.
I,
Now that's very curious, Cassie, because I find those text messages that McDougal sent you very, very incriminating for him.
And you know what? I think I would have found it incriminating too. And I don't think I would have I think I would have called out to my ex husband that night, the very moment that that guy sent that message. I would have, makes you think that, and you'll hear her say later that she thinks that he may have unalived her daughter at that time and was trying to trick her. I think he flew mad because the little girl didn't want him and she rejected him. And I think that and I think he hurt that little girl.
Him because he is playing on your emotions. He knows how much you want to see
He's a
Audrey.
monster.
So basically, Cassie, McDougal is using your daughter as bait to lure you down
Hey,
to
Nora.
the river where her body was later found. Why was he doing that? And claiming he was going to keep it secret from her dad. What was he? What was his game?
well, when he first approached me, and see, when I say approached me, it was all through Facebook Messenger. I've never had his number or anything like that. But he had said that he was Audrey's babysitter, which was instant red flag. I didn't understand. But he had said that he wasn't going to pick parents' sides, that he was concerned about what Audrey wanted and how she felt, and that he thought it was wrong for her to be kept from me if she wanted to know me. So he played on the fact that I was desperate for anything. I wanted pictures. I just anything that had to do with my daughter. And for a minute, I could have believed that. But then I thought more into it and I just knew something was wrong. And I had been speaking to my family about it. I've been telling my fiance told me from the jump not to associate with him in any way. Do not. But he doesn't understand how I was feeling when I was craving something of my daughter.
Did you have any idea this freak was your daughter's babysitter?
Not until he had messaged me and I had tried to contact Josh, wondering what the is going on. And
Look at him, y'all. Look
I
at
asked my
this.
family,
Look at this man. Look at him. He is such a creep. If a person could not see this guy and not see creepo, and not to mention, okay, he might not have been on the registered list, but he came from jail. They knew he was a prison. He came from prison. He was not a good guy. And why would you bring your little precious 11-year-old daughter around, or someone like this around your daughter? Hey, Flippy. Hey, everybody coming in. Leave alone. Let this monster be alone with her for 5 minutes. I don't get it. Oh, I don't get it.
over and over again if they could try to contact, and they tried to get no answer. I wanted to know why a man that nobody knows is being left with my 11-year-old daughter. I mean, he could have chose anyone else under the sun and it would have been okay. But when he invited me
Look
down
at
to
him.
go fishing to see my daughter. Well, for one, I knew better. But at this point, knowing what I know now, I feel like he did something to Audrey Wednesday before he even messaged me, and that if I would have went, he would have gotten rid of me as well, and then it would have been chalked up to I kidnapped my daughter and I ran with her, and people would have forever been looking for two people that don't exist, not looking in a river.
Question.
I do want to
So
say
you believe
this. I do want to say this. This is going to get a little bit more graphic as they talk about what they think might have happened to her. But when EquaSearch, main guy from Texas EquaSearch, brought his sonar down there and he found Audrey, she was tied to a rope and she was floating in a current, circling around in a current, and that's why his sonar couldn't. Tim from Texas EquaSearch actually found him, y'all. Her. And they said that she was like the current was taking her in circles, round and round. But thank God he found her. Thank God, because he said it was very hard for the sonar to pick her up because of the current. Now, I do want to put out a trigger warning here because it's going to get a little bit more not so good. And Nancy asks her what she thinks went on.
this was part of a bigger plan? Why do you believe, Cassie, he needed, in his mind, to kill Audrey?
I don't understand that at all. Actually, I can understand the little bit of hatred that he would have for me, because I would be the only person that could remove her from the home, where he was already residing. I have no idea why he felt the need to. I actually, you know what? And this is, oh my God, it makes me sick to my stomach to say, but I think that in a pedophile's mind, they see a child and they see their actions as an adult would see another adult. Okay. I feel like maybe he was in love with my daughter and he thought that maybe at one point she did say that he was her favorite person or something like that. Maybe he was good to her, but she was looking at him as nothing other than an uncle, the way a child should, if at most.
Cassie,
But what if
do
he was
you
in, but
believe
what if
he
he was in
had
love with my daughter?
already?
What if he tried to make an advance on my daughter and he didn't get the reaction that he wanted? He either snapped or he knew that she would tell. That is what I think.
Do you believe he had already molested her?
And you're going to see Nancy starts crying.
I don't know. Do you know that I didn't find out that her pants were on the debate until I watched your interview with
Tim Miller.
Yeah.
And you know what, Cassie? I didn't know either until I was talking to Tim Miller and he told me live at that moment. I didn't know that either. And it felt like a knife in my heart. How
I'm
did
really trying to
you?
hold it together. I'm
I'm
sick.
sorry, Cassie. I
sick
am
to
so
my stomach.
sorry.
I don't understand.
Cassie, how did you learn that they had found Audrey?
A lady from the sheriff's department, and one of the jailers, I believe, was sent to my home to tell me and to sit with me until a family member or some type of support. They weren't supposed to leave me alone, and they didn't. She was really good to me, but I just knew in my stomach when my fiance come to the room because I hadn't gotten out of bed. I was just stuck in my bed when he had come to me and said that there was a lady from the sheriff's department at the door and that they needed to speak with me. I knew in my and
You know what,
honestly,
Cassie? I don't know how people know that, but when I found out that I was supposed to call my fiance's sister, I knew. I knew he was dead. I knew right then. So when you hear there's a sheriff lady at the door, you knew that Audrey
I
was
knew
gone.
my stomach dropped. My heart, just everything just stopped for a minute, honestly. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. She told me I
What
didn't.
did she say? Did she reveal anything?
No. She looked me in my face, asked me to sit down, and then she said, "This is not news that I want to be giving you right now." And I started bawling, and she was like, "Yeah, baby, And then she was right. And honestly, I still don't know how to process any of this. If you want me to be nothing but truthful, I am in search for a therapist at the moment, because I have been a manic depressant with extreme anxiety since I was 15 years old. I am so scared that this is going to be a depression that I can't get myself out of. I feel numb. I don't feel much of anything else at all. I feel numb.
I do want to question, why was she not allowed to see her daughter? I don't get that. What did she do that the father was not allowed. There's a lot of parents have a lot of rights. So I question, why did she lose custody to where she couldn't even see her daughter? That's what my question is. Because maybe if she would have been in her life, she would have known that this monster was going around her daughter, which was very sad. Very, very sad.
I don't sleep. I just sit there and I watch videos and look at pictures and I read all of these comments on the internet and that's all I can do. All I can do is just put all of my thought into this in general. I can have someone sitting right next to me and they're talking to me and I don't hear a word that they say because I'm just.
Cassie, I'm going to hook you up with a therapist. I've got somebody for you, a lady for you to talk to, and I'll hook you up with her in just a few moments.
But she
Cassie,
seems
did
to
you?
have a little bit more common sense than the daddy. The daddy don't seem like he had too much common sense to be leaving this criminal around his daughter. Why was she texting him? How did she know it was him? He was sending her a message through social media, I think. And I think she has a drug history, a drug past. Hey, none, you bizwhack. Exactly. She should have at least supervised visits. Yeah. Audrey could have told her, what was going on. Hey, this creepo guy, maybe she would have confided with her faster if she would have been able to see her. I mean, she's still a mother, whether she had a drug problem or not. She's still the mother, and that instinct would have kicked in, especially if she'd have saw this freako. I don't know. Sometimes I think they go too far by stripping them completely away from seeing their children. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you have any idea about McDougal's record? Why was he living in the backyard? Why did he have access to the home?
So I had no idea until I made the Facebook post and people started commenting because as much effort as they put into keeping me away, I figured they would put the same type of effort into knowing the people that were around. If I would have known that I needed to do her father's job because he didn't give a to do it, I would have known. But I knew.
I've got a question for you, Cassie.
Right.
You
This-
said that as
Ugh.
soon as you told your fiance he wants to meet me down by the river and he's going to bring Audrey, your fiance immediately said, "Do not talk to this guy. Stay away from him." Did everybody know this guy was bad news? Why would he say that?
He did not like the fact that he was like persistent on trying to get me alone. He said that he had a bad feeling about him and that there just something wasn't right. And my fiance is an excellent judge of character. He really is.
He was right. Question to you.
Better
Did you
better than her own father. I just think her father was really young and naive, and the grandma was wild as a wildcat. I think the grandma probably had the hots for this guy.
discover that McDougal was actually going door to door like he was looking for Audrey?
That's the part right there that just infuriates me to the point where I could put my hands around his throat and squeeze and not stop. How do you know damn good and well what you did to my daughter and then you search for her like you care? You don't care. You killed my daughter and then you want to search for.
Angels have toilet paper in.
This is a perfect example of somebody like the perpetrator always is involved in the search somehow, some way. The perpetrator always in these cases is involved in the search.
When you
It's
found
sick.
out that Audrey was missing and McDougal writes he was taking her to the bus, did you ever text him or call him and say, "Where's Audrey?"
He messaged me actually and he said, "Hey, have you seen Audrey? She didn't make it home off the bus." And I said, "Where the is my kid, Steven?" Because I knew.
He was trying to cover his tracks. I wonder if he was trying in some way to set you up. I can't figure it out. But I guarantee you this, Miss Matthews, I will figure it out. I will figure it out. And I want you to know not only are we praying and thinking about you, we're not letting go of this until this guy gets a
I don't.
Texas death penalty.
Can I be
I
honest with you
know
about
you don't care if he gets the death penalty. Other people do.
that? I actually don't want him to receive the death penalty only because I'm not God. It is not my place to judge when somebody else's life ends. And that to me is an easy way out for him. I have to live with the fact for the rest of my life that I will never see my daughter again, the things that happened to my daughter. And I feel like he should get life without parole, so he has to deal with all of the repercussions every single day for the rest of his life just as well.
Do you think he cares? Do you think McDougal
No, see,
will
that's the
sit in
thing.
jail and feel
No, see,
sorry?
that's the thing.
And let me tell
That's
you
the thing,
something.
Nancy.
He can
I
get
never
right with
expect
God
him.
on his way to
No.
hell.
I never expect him at all to even have any type of remorse because you can see it in his face, the type of monster he is.
That's why I love Nancy Grace, because she don't give two shits. And y'all, I am a Christian, and I listen, I believe an eye for an eye. And if that was my child, they better have metal detectors at that courthouse on court day when he goes before a judge. They better have metal detectors, because I'm telling you right now, that man will not be in the same room with me if he hurt my child like that. Because I had thoughts today it wasn't good about it. If it was my child, there's no way. Nope, nope.
Is and the things that he did to my daughter. But the other people that he will have around him will damn sure make sure that he does not enjoy a single minute of it.
Miss Matthews,
This
I
guy's a
want you to try.
criminal.
And I know these are just words that don't
He's
mean
used to
anything.
being in
You've
jail.
got to stay strong, because you've got to make sure there is justice for Audrey. You have got to stay
I-
strong. Don't fall into that depression and spiral down to where you can't get out. You've got to be her mom now and stay strong and be her voice, because nobody else has been her voice. And now it's on you, Cassie. You got to be her voice, and you can do
I
that.
failed my daughter
Thank you
once
for-
by being bullied into submission and being made to believe that she was in a good home, but I will not fail my daughter again, Nancy. That's everybody thinks that I don't care, that I'm just shrugging it off. Oh, she's not crying, she's
don't
not
think
this, she's
that.
not that.
Hey,
No, I
Donna.
break down in my home where I'm comfortable. My grieving is not everyone's business, but what is everyone's business is the fact that this isn't over and things need to be done concerning my daughter. So if I got to keep a straight face and I gotta look heartless for it, well, so be it. But if I'm sitting there breaking down,
Who cares
I'm
what
not
they
getting the damn
think?
thing done.
Who cares what they think? All that matters now is what God thinks and getting justice. That's all that matters right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Cassie, thank you for being with us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for everything that you've done and how much effort you've put into this. It means a lot to me. I appreciate your realism, your straight to the point, the fact that you're not you're not just trying to be somebody's best friend. You are in the interest of the child, my child. And I appreciate all of the information that I have obtained from you, whether you knew you were giving me the information or not. I just appreciate you in general. Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you for watching Crime Online with Nancy Grace here on YouTube. To get
Nancy Grace, man, she gets it all right there now. But the thing is what I want to I'm going to bring up a video. Yeah, I think so. I think he did more than that. I think I'm going to bring up the last photo that someone took while they were at a restaurant about a week before he unalived her. And I'm going to see what you guys think about that. Hang on just a second. This is Nancy Grace. I want to see what y'all think. You can clearly see that Audrey is terrified of this man, because she's sitting beside of him, but she's sitting so far away that you can tell that she's not comfortable, that this man creeps her out, you know. And so, hang on just a second. I'll pull it up. I saved it on here, but I've been posting a lot on my Facebook. So, I want to see here. Where's it at? Ba, 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 ba. Because it gives you the impression it's actually a TikTok. So let me pull this up. Okay. I hope you all can see it good enough, but this is a TikTok that of Audrey sitting by this creek.
Just surfaced, and this is gonna break your heart. It is said that the lady with the blue hair is her grandmother, and as you can see, Audrey is sitting next to McDougal. Katrina shared that, man, we went to a surprise birthday party for our friends a few weeks ago and videoed and took picture because he asked her to marry him too. His niece figured out that the people behind us were Audrey, Stephen, and her grandmother. My heart. She's so beautiful. She was sitting next to him, but as far away as she could be at the end of the table. They also gave her a piece of the birthday cake. A complete stranger saying that Audrey was sitting next to McDougal, but as far away as possible at the table's edge, as far as she could get.
Yeah. So if you watch that picture, and I guess they were there, the people that took that picture, and noticed that Audrey was very uncomfortable with. Let me go in here. Audrey was very uncomfortable around this guy, and you would have thought that the grandma would have like noticed that, but if she was infatuated with this guy, you know, he was probably buttering up to the grandma so he could groom Audrey. He's a monster. I'm still wondering if Audrey wrote that send help in the notebook that was found or if he wrote it. It's untelling. They'll be able to tell. The autopsy will be able to tell. I'm really hating YouTube. No notifications. It's okay. That's kind of happened a couple times. Does the grandmother have green hair? She has purple hair. She had purple hair. I want to see the autopsy report. They never revealed so much. They report that will reveal so much. Well, I don't think that's come out yet. Hey, no fear. How are you, Daisy? I just thinking the same. But yeah, I mean, it's just sad. Um, I'm glad they found her because hopefully the cold water, even though it was in Texas, the water was probably still cold. Hopefully the cold water would keep her body preserved and they'll be able to tell exactly how long he'd been assaulting her. You know, they know that she had blunt force trauma to her head. We all know that she had a lot of injuries to her body. Um, I don't he would have had to took her down there. We're good, no fear. Punky purple or wrong color for your hair purple. Oh, I don't know, but if you look at that picture, and I'll pull the picture up actually, just the picture itself right here. I'm gonna stop it right there so you can see the picture. If you look at the picture, the grandmother, I don't get why they had Audrey sitting by this guy. Like right there is him, and then right there's Audrey sitting as far, and that's the grandma. It looks like a bluish purple hair, and this must have been the father. Why Audrey was sitting with this guy, I have no idea. Let me take this down so you guys can see it. So, obviously, these people noticed that Audrey was not comfortable sitting around this monster. Daisy, I thought I read that the family got her body today. Have you heard this? Um, I seen something about a funeral. Daisy, I love saying there is no love like a mother's love. That is true. And I don't get why they don't let the biological parents sometimes talk to the children and just completely cut ties with them because, even though that parent might not be in the right way to, but they can notice things and the kids may open up to them. Hey, Lone Star, how are you? Every single person in that family failed that poor baby. Exactly. This case reminds me a lot of Harmony Montgomery. It really does, except Harmony's father is the one who hurt her versus this monster. But a lot of the case with the mothers hadn't been around in a couple years, hasn't looked for their child, hasn't searched for their child. It's crazy. Hey, Christy, because she sits across from him, he could put his hands under the table. And yep, yep. She was terrified of this guy. McDougal controlled that family, and they gave him Audrey. They literally turned this child over to him. Like, what in tarnation is wrong with these people? All you have to do is look at that man, and I could tell just by looking at him that he's no good. Daisy, everyone failed this beautiful little girl. It makes me sad. It does me too. It does me too. I mean, it's sad that she was taken out. I mean, can you imagine how scared she was? She couldn't go to her dad. She couldn't go to her grandma. They're letting this monster take her to school. He's probably, making his way with her on the way to school. And maybe she did slip up and tell a friend. Maybe she told someone. I don't know. That will come out eventually if she did, or maybe she threatened him. Something happened to trigger him, because for him to unalive her, and y'all know that he had tried to essay another child that told on him and he got in trouble. So this time he was going to make sure that he didn't get trouble. Who is stupid enough to commit murder in Texas? Obviously, there's a couple of them that does it. This guy for sure, because he's going to get the death penalty. And I don't think the mother is going to have any say about it, because probably the father, hopefully the father and the grandfather or the grandmother. Right. I want to know what triggered him too. Did Audrey reject him? What triggered this man? Did he finally make his way with Audrey and got scared because maybe she started, something happened to her? He hurt her and they got scared. I don't know. He's a monster. In my opinion, this man is a monster. I think she was going to tell and he knew it. Something wasn't right. Something happened to trigger him, because he had been around Audrey a while. I wonder if she was alive when he put her in the water. So sad. I don't know. That could come out to, right, Drunk Luna? That could come out to, I don't know. We won't know until they come out with the autopsy to see whether or not, you know, what exactly happened to her, and I think they may already have that. I don't know if they'll make it public or if they'll seal the autopsy. They may actually seal the autopsy. They did that with um, Evelyn Boswell's case. That all was sealed. In Kingsport, yeah, he's a devil. Him and Adam Montgomery both. He's just an evil monster. Yep, absolutely. Somebody's sending me a message, y'all. Let me see who it is. Hang on just a second. Somebody sent me a message. I got to read it right quick. I'm sorry, you guys. Let me see here. Okay, so here's a statement that Cassie said earlier. I'll make it this clear one time and one time only. I failed my daughter by being bullied into submission by the father's family and being made to believe she was safe, loving, and normal home with her father. So, did that mean that the mother gave her up? Did she give her up? McDougal is evil, yes. The father probably had an a-hole of a attorney and he threatened the mom. Yeah, the mom could have been on drugs too. The autopsy will show if she was alive when she was put in the water. If her lungs were filled with water, that would be a telltale sign. So wouldn't she still have oxygen? That's what I'm thinking. No. If she was alive, her lungs would have been filled with water. If she was unalive, she wouldn't. It wouldn't, right? He probably told her he would let her see mom if she didn't tell. That's probably how he lured her there. I don't know, but something happened that morning. Was there a school worker that her daughter was friends with? Audrey wonder if he found a letter Audrey might have written to the teacher. I don't know. Something triggered this monster. Something. Daisy, my daughter, is 31 and it takes so good care of this mama. I'm so blessed. Oh, well, I'm glad for you Donna, that's a blessing. That is a blessing. When will the autopsy reports be available? I'm sure it will be a while before, if they don't seal it. The way the DA seems to be, she seems to be a rough and tough one. So, in my opinion, I don't know if that DA is going to play around with this case and let the autopsy, they may seal it. I don't know how Texas law works, where it's a child's case and there's a possible SA involved in this case. They could very well seal the autopsy reports. I know that they did they let the autopsy report come out on the Delphi girls? Do you all remember that? I don't think they did. I think they just let the initial report come out, but not the actual autopsy of the girls. I feel like the mom knows something. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the mom knows anything. I think if anybody knows, that grandmother knows, because the grandma was letting this man be around her granddaughter. I mean, probably was the one who invited him there. I don't know. It's just sad that this little girl lost her life in the way she did. That's why I don't like to cover these other cases. A lot of people has asked me about the little guy that's missing right now. I know a lot of people are covering him. But y'all, covering these cases really does get to me. It can be a lot to cover cases like this, and it's very sad. And I don't like to deal with children. Like, even as a nurse, I worked in pediatrics, but I didn't like it because I didn't like to see children be hurt. And kids in pediatrics, kids they can handle a lot. Like, but when they crash fast. They go down fast. So I don't, that's just not my thing. And, covering Harmony's case and all the horrific stuff we heard during that trial about what Adam and Kayla let happen and did to Harmony, and then covering this case on top of it, I just don't know if I'm ready to cover another child's case. It is sad. The children's, yes. They're very, very, very sad. And I know that Audrey's been found, and I know this guy's in jail. Harmony Montgomery. We covered the Harmony Montgomery case. It was a very sad, sad case. That little girl was failed in so many ways. I thought her dad was friends with him. Maybe it was the other way around and it was the grandma. I think it might have been the grandma, but both of them were friends. Hey, my three sons. Harmony Montgomery is this little girl right here. Her daddy, Adam Montgomery, unalived her in the back seat of his car with his fist. They were living in a car for 10 days, and the CPS system gave her to her father for 8 months. And the last month they lived in a car, and he flew mad because Harmony was using the bathroom on herself, and he unalived her with his fist while him and his girlfriend sat in the front seat, went to Burger King, ate. Harmony was back there moaning. They did their drugs, waited 20 or 30 minutes later, started the car up, went back down the road. Their car stalled at a red light. He went back there to wake Harmony up. She was unalived at that point, or so we think. We don't know 100% sure if she was or not, because she's never been found. But long story short, he throws her in a tote bag, an Adidas tote bag, and or Under Armour uh, gym bag, and then he takes her to um he basically for 3 months he carries her body around, where he takes it out, puts it, unthaws it, thaws it, puts it in the ceiling, where the body fluids seep into the ceiling, and then he takes her out of the ceiling, puts her in a freezer at work. Then he comes back to the apartment, puts her in the refrigerator, puts her in the closet, puts her in the tub where he may have dismembered her. He did do something to get her in that tote bag, you know, and the initial report from Kayla was that he punched the bag and made it look like it broke her bones. Yeah, he did torture Harmony. And then ultimately distributing her throughout, we don't know where, but it was mentioned that there were several bags. So, and even Kayla slips up in court and says bags. So I think she knew that Harmony was dismembered in that bathroom. That's why she couldn't stand to stay in there. Daisy, do you think the noise Harmony was making with the death rattle? Yes. I think that when he hit her in the head, he caused a subdural bleed. And that was a reaction to, she probably was to be honest with you, and any nurse that's in here would probably say the same thing, that she was probably back there seasoned, because any kind of neurological, like bleeds, brain bleeds and stuff, it can cause severe seizures. And so if he damaged her brainstem in any way, um, that would automatically like stop breathing. Subdural hematomas. Yeah, he probably, when he hit her that last time, he said he heard the pop or like that. He thought he'd hurt her. I think he fractured her skull, and that she started actually probably seizing back there, having a seizure from the trauma. And that's what they heard, was the actual seizure before she was unalive. And I've dealt with a lot of brain injuries, and that's one of the biggest things is seizures. So I would almost bet that moaning sign and stuff that they heard in the back seat for that time was a seizure. I studied the JonBenet Ramsey case, and just seeing one of my screenshots, Daryl Smith call me a liar over this case. Actually, I have the actual crime scene photos of JonBenet, and that is an absolute. Whoever hurt that baby was a monster. A monster, drunk Luna. It's very sad. He got guilty. They did find him guilty on second-degree murder, Adam Montgomery, but they're not sentencing him until May the 8th. So hopefully he'll get life in prison. The way the DA talked, he probably will end up with life. He got abuse of a corpse. He got tamper with evidence. He's got other charges plus 60 years for a stolen gun. So he was born with a subdural. Yes, actually, a lot of elderly people can have subdural hematomas. It just depends on the severity of it. And if he fractured her skull, it was probably a massive bleed in her brain that caused it. Depends on where it was at. If it was in the back of her head, it could have been her brainstem, and that controls everything. You cannot live without a brainstem. The brainstem, when it's damaged, you're a goner. And that's why I think that she died so fast. Because this wasn't the first time that he had done that to her. You heard Kayla testify that she had blood on her face from previous beatings from him from days before. that they never washed off this that case is just so bad, y'all. That's a bad case. So bad. And that's why I don't want to do the little Elijah, because I don't think I can handle it. I have heard a few things on it and it reminds me a lot of Harmony's case, so I just can't right now. I've got to take a break from that. It's just way too much. And so I can't do it. I can't get into another case with that severity of abuse from the parents. And I have a feeling that little Elijah's case is probably similar to Harmony's, maybe. What I've heard, just a little bits and pieces of it. So I haven't covered it, you know. It's a sad situation. These poor little innocent babies. Why do we talk about such horrible things about children? That is wrong. Well, we have to keep it out here. We have to keep awareness out here. Um, Holy Spirit. If we don't put awareness out here about it's especially what happened to little Audrey, then parents, like, look what happened. Parents need to know that there's monsters out here. Not only that, is we keep the justice out here, we keep their names out here, we keep the pressure on the law enforcement, and it's sad. I'm sorry, y'all. It's very sad. And yeah, because there's children out here. See something, say something. If you see somebody in the parking lot of an apartment complex with children in a car and they're obviously living, and I think about that with Harmony's case, like how many people seen them in that car with those children at night? There were people going in and out of that parking lot that had to see that there were children in that car with these dope heads and didn't do anything. If you see something, say something. Even if you have to pick up the phone and say, hey, these people are on drugs and they got these kids in the back of this car and I think they're homeless. And man, maybe you need to come here and check it out. You need to come check it out. I don't think these people are too good. And people seen that with Harmony's case. There were not only Harmony, who was 5 years old, but they were two toddlers also in the backseat of that car who went for days without being changed and or even tended to. You heard Kayla testify that there was urine and feces smell reaping from that back seat of that car. That somebody that was going in and out of those apartment complexes had to have seen the night they were staying in that car. You could have heard those babies, especially if those babies were laying in that car seat for hours and hours and hours and hours in soiled diapers and stuff, crying. You would have had to known that that wasn't right. People should have picked up their phone and called the CPS, or at least had law enforcement come out there and check it out, and they would have found Harmony hid underneath that blanket. They should have Someone should have picked up that phone and called. And that is a thought that's been going through my head ever since Harmony's case, especially today when I were looking at the when I was looking at the apartment complex. Now, Dolly Vision actually went to that apartment complex when he was there for court. And it was a very nice apartment complex. It looked very new to me. And that there were people walking in and out day and night that had to have known that they were living there with those babies in the cold and they were drug addicts. What is going on with the world? People doing terrible stuff to these beautiful children It makes me sick. I can't fathom these parents are supposed to protect their children. Exactly. Exactly. But, it's just what people needs to know that what these monsters done to that little baby. She didn't have a voice. We are her voice. Her mother was not her voice. The CPS system was not her voice. The police department was not her voice. Her father was not her voice. Her uncle tried to be her voice, but no one would listen to him. Um, the stepmom was just as bad as the dad. I mean, she set up on that stand and basically talked about how they neglected her so bad. Not only are people unaliving, but children are unaliving their parents every day. And you have to ask yourself why. CPS failed Harmony and other babies in that household. I agree. Sonia said, what happened to Harmony was no accidental death. Consistent abuse and smacking around is no accident and leads to unaliving. Thank goodness jury also seemed sperm donor Adam guilty. I agree 100% on you on that, Sonia. I think, and I've thought that same thing, that she probably had previous fractures from being hit around. I mean, you heard Kayla say that 2 o'clock that morning she had an accident. He beat her up. Then she pooped on herself that morning. He beat her up. And then she urinated on herself right before the last time. And they never cleaned her up. They left her in that mess. And oh, oh my, I just can't. It's just awful, awful. Me want to cry every time I think about Harmony. This little Audrey girl was sad what happened to her. It was absolutely sad, but I do genuinely feel like she was loved. I just feel like her grandmother was a wildcat and her dad was young and naive and they brought that monster around. But poor Harmony, she didn't have a chance. She was born addicted to drugs. They had gave her to Crystal, what, 3 or 4 times. She was in a loving foster home. They kept taking her out of the foster home, placing her back with Crystal where she was neglected by Crystal. And so lastly, they gave her to a monster. And that, then the Lord came and said, it's my time to take you home with me, my little daughter. And Harmony is no longer hurting. Neither is Audrey. They're in heaven with the Lord. But it's sad. And this is what we have to face in this world. Parents that are doing drugs are not capable to taking care of their children. They're just not. The children need to be taken out of the household and placed in a safe home. Now, I know Audrey's mom had a drug problem. Do I think that she should have not been allowed to speak to Harmon or Audrey? No, because I ultimately think that Audrey would have told her about this new creepy guy and maybe she would have been able to track of him, but the father probably would have never listened anyway. It's so sad, you guys. It's so sad. Hang on, somebody sent me something. She said, that is my daughter, and I'll never ever lost any rights to her. So, as her parent, I'm going to be involved myself, anything I can concerning my child. So, why didn't she go around? Why was the father allowed to keep that little girl away from her mom? Of all cases, Harmony's affected me the most. Me too, Robin. Me too. CBS needs to be shaken up. Maybe the government needs to put more money into these cases. I think they need to have a better system. I think cutting off all communications with the parent because they're doing drugs, I don't know if that's a good idea. I think that they should have strict supervision, um, but also be able to still see their children in case there is something going on in the foster home, and the children can actually tell them, hey, this is going on, because a lot of children are placed in worse situations than they were before they left their parents. Everyone failed Harmony, such a precious little girl. Yes, Harmony was just a little angel. She'll always be my little angel. I mean, my heart just breaks for her. Look how precious. I don't see how that man could hurt his own child. And then after he did it, he run around bragging about how he slapped her around and how he did not like her. He hated her because um, she reminded him of her biological mother, Crystal. Can anyone tell me something good about Harmony? Here, I'll go first. Harmony was a beautiful girl. Yes, she was. Harmony was a beautiful, precious little young girl who was full of life, who had a wonderful foster parents that loved her, that kept getting her taken away. And I know how heartbreaking that is, because I had Bub and his brother took away from me for a short time. Bub was. And it was heartbreaking, placed back into that home where we ultimately had to take full custody of Bub. But she was beautiful. She was smart. She was loved by so many. She was just put in the wrong hands. She would have been better off with Crystal in a halfway house where she was than she was with that monster. Like I said, sometimes when they take them out of the homes, it's not always the best thing to put them in foster care. And that's why I think that the biological parents should be able to keep track of them, or at least get to talk to them, even if it's supervised visitations. I just don't, unless they're extremely dangerous. She was, Nanny. Harmony was God's gift to the world. Yes, she was. And she'll get her justice next month. She did. And it was because of the foster parents. She wasn't expected to live to be 1 years old. But guess what? God had other plans for her. Harmony was more than just another abused child. She was precious. Yes, she was. Every abused child, whether they're abused or not, is precious. Absolutely, they were. And they are. And if we can avoid that happening again, if you see something, you say something. If your gut tells you something ain't right, then it ain't going to hurt to report it. And if they don't listen, scream it to the top of the moon. I will go next. I will go next. Harmony was so pretty. Yes, she was. She was a little angel. Crystal will spend the rest of her life regretting her choices that she made that ultimately put her in the hands of her mother, of her monster father. So will Audrey's daddy and grandmother. The rest of their lives, they will regret the choices. Sometimes the choices we make in life can affect us for the rest of our lives. There's always a consequence to every action, but when it comes to a child's life, There needs to be more protection. There needs to be more investigation. There needs to be more stricter rules and regulations and a better system. Our system has failed these children. Foster homes aren't safe. Law and CPS procedures to be reformed. Yeah, some of these kids they get starved and treated horrible. I think the CPS worker that actually sees what's going on in a home should be held accountable, but not all of them should be entitled incompetent. Well, in Harmony's case, that man came to the house and saw Adam taking Harmony and putting her in that car and leaving. He should have followed him and called the police. Because if you know that a CPS worker is there and you jump in a car with that child and leave, that's a red flag. But what did that CPS worker do? Nothing. He went in and talked to Kayla. Then he called Adam and he come back a week later and still found a bruise on that baby's little eye. And what did he do? Nothing. He questioned Harmony in front of that monster. And of course she's not going to tell that her daddy backhanded her. I would love to be her mama. I have two boys, but always wanted a little girl too. I would have loved her and protected her at all costs. Me too. This reminds me of why my mom became a prosecutor, so she could speak up for victims. Good for her. We need all the good DAs that are out there. I believe in Audrey's case, there's a hello, Gail, a very, very, very good prosecutor. She's going for capital murder, y'all. She ain't playing. Most of the kids around her here are in better homes than with their parents. It's our responsibility to keep a check on our own local CPS, in my opinion. Right? It's all of our jobs to keep an eye out for these children. If you see a child being picked on or yelled at by her parents and she acts scared of them, don't be afraid to pick up that phone and say, "Hey, go, can you go check that out?" Like, I don't like the way he's treating this child or she's treating this child, you know. Now, if you see a mom correcting her child that's throwing a tantrum and the child's being a brat, don't go calling no social workers or police or anything like that. But if you generally see this child is terrified and that parent is talking horrible, you know the difference. And know who your children are around. Yes, don't leave your children to stay all night with friends. You don't know the family of those people. Even if your children are teenagers. Y'all, I was a helicopter mama and I'm a helicopter mama to this day, but I don't care. My children's safety is the number one priority. All of them. And they're grown adults. And our responsibility as citizens and human beings of this whole world is to protect other people's children as well, not just ours. You can't just look and say, "Oh, that's not my problem." No, if you see something, say something. My husband's nieces were put in foster homes. The foster dad tried to drown the oldest one because she wouldn't call him dad. Oh my God. See, yeah, that's not good. I'm glad we got Bub. I'm glad. And we would have took Bub's sister, but Bub's sister got her biological father who loves her and takes good care of her, has her, and he's had her since she was little. But I would have took all of them. Even though it would have been really hard for me, I would have. My kids remind me they're grown and I don't have to hover. I know, but it's hard, Sonia. It's so hard not to hover over your kids, even though they're grown. It's hard not to do that. Very hard for me. I go a little far, but hey, you got to nowadays. This world is freaking full of evils. It was full of evil people back when we were younger. But man, oh man, I mean, they're running up in broad daylight in stores and grabbing kids out of the hands of their parents. They do need a better system. I put ice and water in my diamonds cup. It still had ice from the next day. Awesome. Yeah, it's a good cup, Yanni. My children are my life, and me and my children belong to God. Yes. Always pray for protection over your children, day and night. I'm married and I'm about to have my own baby, and my mom still hovers. And she'll hover over at grandbaby too, drunk Luna. Yep. Your mommy will be hovering over that baby too. That's just part of it. When you have your baby, you'll do the same. Our kids used to play all over the neighborhood. Yeah, you can't trust it now. It's tough being a parent, period. My girls absolutely hate it when I tell them that they can't go to sleepovers. They say their friends' parents let them. Their friends have phones, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's listen, y'all. I was the only mom at the fifth grade um, field trip. And I got you know what from it, but I don't care because them schools, let me tell you something about schools. I went to on a trip with my daughter when she was in band, and we went to Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, downtown Atlanta at the Macy's Mall. This teacher turns these young teenage kids, 14, 15-year old, alone in the mall to walk and wander around. That's why mama went, because my daughter ain't walking around no mall by herself at 14, 15 years old. But that teacher, if something would have happened to those kids, she would have never known what happened to them. Never would have known. But that's why I always went with mine or made my husband go when they went on trips. Is because teachers don't. Especially if it's a teacher that don't have children, that's never had children, they're not as protective. Yeah, that's not safe. And one of my friends, my daughter's friends, who was 15 at the time, wanted to go to Myrtle Beach with us. So we took her on a trip to Myrtle Beach. And she proceeded to wanted to run around Myrtle Beach by herself with my daughter. And I said, absolutely not. And you know that little girl, where her mom let her run around all the time by herself, got so mad at me. And I was the bad mom, but I was not about to. But this little girl was so wild that she was hitting on 30-year-old men. I had to keep a close eye on that girl. She was wild, and she's still wild to this day. And she's almost 30 years old. I don't think she's ever calmed down and got married. But yeah, she got mad as a red hen, but I don't care. You're in my care. I'm not letting you out of my sight, little girl. I don't care how mad you get. Daisy, I saw a Catholic priest get arrested for touching a 15-year-old. Yep, that happens a lot, y'all. Don't let that, don't let what other people do affect your religion, though. Just because somebody that is religious is bad doesn't mean all people who are religious are bad. There's monsters everywhere in every profession and everything. There's not a profession out there that there's not a monster. So just because one person's that way, don't try not to judge all people that way. Oh my Daisy, the school has encouraged parents chaperones. My son was in high school. Well, not this one. The teacher ran off with her little friends, and she left them kids to wander around Macy's Mall in downtown Atlanta, Georgia by themselves. And I was so grateful that I was an overprotective mom, because if something would have happened to my child, they would have probably never done anything to that teacher because she has a lot of pull in the county we lived in, and they would have just swept it under the rug, and we would have never known what happened to any of those children. So therefore, I went with my child. Yes, I was a villain. I was the bad mom. I was the helicopter mom. My child did not like it. Now she knows, she sees why, I was overprotective, but oh well, you're not there to be their friends. You're there to be their mother. My soon to be 10-year-old is getting there. She gives me attitude. And I'm like, girl, you're lucky I'm not my mama. Go sit your butt down with that attitude. Hey, your mama didn't play, Miss Diamonds. Your mama did not play. I remember that story your mama told me. You told me about your mama. Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, my husband is from Georgia and still refuses to go downtown Atlanta. Well, this was downtown Macy's. It was down in town. My mom has always been my best friend though. You can be best friend with your adult children. You just can't be as teenagers. When they're teenagers, you can't you can't be their friend, especially when they want to wander off by themselves or when they start driving. We've got a strict schedule with Bub. We got him on 360 where we can see where he's at all times. He has to call us, he has to text us. Like he don't go he doesn't he's not allowed to have kids in his car. That's absolutely off limits. No kids in his car at any time. He goes to the mall and he has to go by strict regimens. And so yeah, he called me sergeant the other day. But listen, I'm not his friend, I'm his parent, and I have to keep him safe. When he's 18 or above and he's old enough and his mind is grown enough to be able to logically think for himself. And I don't believe they can do that at 18. I think at least in their 20s. But that's just me. But the law says at 18. My mama was not to be played with at all. She was the one that cooked for the neighbors and babysitted their kids. But when you tested her, gangster, it was over. Honey, your mama is one of them little Puerto Rican mamas that get out that damn slipper and throw them damn slippers at you. That's what your mama was. That's so funny. I love watching those videos when parents or kids portray their mamas. It's so funny. I love it. Miss Daisy, I told my older daughter she would do fine at boot camp when she enlisted because I was her first drill sergeant. It should come natural. Exactly, Diamonds. Exactly. Hey, my kids know. Listen, I'm very humble and let my kids, do a lot. But when they bring out the grizzly bear it is. And you're not supposed to be friends with your kids. You just can't be. Not when they're teenagers. When they become adults, yeah. You stay out of their business. You don't get in their relationships. Unless it was an abusive relationship, I do not get in my adult children's relationships at all. That's between them and their partners and not my business. I'm too damn old. I'm old school. Everything's different nowadays from when I growed up. So I'm not a good judge of character. I can relate. I can't relate. My mom has always been my best friend. Ah, that's good, Drunk Luna. The chuck Chakia will hit the target every time. Oh my lord. We do talk about everything. Oh, you talking about you and your mom? That's a good thing. And my daughters does too. It's just they don't like I don't give them opinions. Well, my oldest one don't. She don't talk about anything. But I don't give them an opinion about anything. I just kind of let them work their thing out. That's the worst thing you can do, especially being an old school person like me that thinks things should be this way. It's not that way nowadays. Kids are different. They handle things differently. Life is different from when we was older. I'm 50 years old, y'all. So I'm like, what do you call them? They call them nowadays. They call me, I don't know. There's a name that they call us. So my kids, I let them handle their own relationships. Sometimes I'll give them advice, but I'm definitely not going to get in the middle of any of that kind of stuff. But now my teenagers, Gen X, there you go. Teenagers, on the other hand, you got to hold that rope on them. You can't let them go and just, you know, boomers were boomers, Ada Cox. Ada Cox. That didn't sound right. Sorry. Mama never slapped me. Her bark was always worse than her bite, but I slipped up one time and called her a beach. Next time I knew she had a pan in her hand and was coming after me, I ran. I bet you did. I bet you did. Oh, thank you, Soul Water. Let me get my cowbell. Thank you, Soul Water. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Thank you. Let's see who got the memberships. Hang on, let me pull it up, y'all. I can't see on my computer here. I have to pull it actually up. Let's see who got the 5 memberships. Yeah, thank you, Dalton. Thank you. Hang on. It's so hard for me to pull this up. Let's see who got it. It looks like Sonia got one. Sandra Louise got one. Mustang Mama, Sandra Neal, and Jenny's Chaos and Crime. Yeehaw! I listened to my live last night and you couldn't hardly hear my cowbell. I don't know why. My microphone on this thing broke, so that might be why I'm not sounding so clear. Thank you so much, Soul Water. Thank you for your donations. God bless you. I still talk to my mom every day, even if it's dumb S. We text all the time. That's good. Always talk to your mom. You're old school too. Thank you so much, Soul Shine. I'm not allowed to talk to my mom anymore. Oh no. I bet she did, Miggy. Thank you so much for that, Soul Shine. Um, yes, thank you all for that. Thank you so much. You need to talk to your mama. Don't matter what, Gail. You need to talk to your mom. Ada Cox. But yeah, y'all, I mean, we just got to put the word out here. Sometimes we just got to, some people are book smart, y'all, but not common sense smart. And some people just don't know. They just don't realize that there are bad people out here. If you've grown up naive all your life and you've been sheltered and never taught to be around people that's been evil, then your discernment of a person is different. My younger brother put a stop to me talking to my mom. Aw, I'm sorry, Gail. My husband even knows when I have problems, I'm going to go to my mama after I go to him. His favorite question is, what does your mama think about it? Right? Because he knows, don't he? A lot of people are just dumb too. Sorry. That's true. They're just very naive. I just think that there's some people that's never, their parents didn't want to teach them about, they didn't want them to know that they actually just wanted them to believe all their life that there were sunshine and rainbows. And a lot of people, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion, they don't realize that there's monsters out here and that the world is actually very evil and that you can't trust everyone, and especially when it comes to your children. So, yeah, I mean, It's scary to think about, but we got to keep these people educated. You loved your parents. A lot of people, I miss mine. My parents were the greatest. No, not at all. They weren't perfect at all. We lived a pretty hard life, but hey, they were my parents. That's who God gave me. So, because I was around a lot of evil and got to basically do whatever I wanted to when I was 16 years old, I got to know real quick that people was not nice. And so that's why I think I'm so protective over my children because I seen the monsters out here. And when you're around a lot of evil, your discernment is very quick about them. My daughter showed me 3 videos. The daughter was doing the mom's hair. The daughter said, the higher the hair, the closer to God. And it was those videos that were funny. That is funny. That's funny. There were 15 of us children, and they worked so hard to raise us. I bet they did, Myrtle, having them many kids. That's a lot of babies. A lot of babies. Damn, I am the only one here that actually grew up in a completely stable, loving, healthy family. Good for you, Drunk Luna. Thank you for saying that. No, we sure did. I sure did not. I wished I could say that, Drunk Luna. But unfortunately, I did not. And a lot of us here did not. I lost a lot of my family in the last few years. My parents were a part of that. I miss them every day. I think it's because of living in my childhood home. Aw, I think so too. Your family was great. Well, I'm so glad that you all have that you all grew up in a stable home and a stable family. It's when you grow up in a dysfunctional home and a dysfunctional family that you have to struggle to try to, make your change that. And I've always wanted to change that. One of my biggest things was I did not want my children to be around drunks or alcoholics or drug addicts. And so I made sure that never happened. My children always, or I did without, I didn't want my children to do without. So I worked extra hard to make sure my children had everything they wanted and still to this day has what they want. And I just was very overprotective because I was exposed to a lot of bad stuff growing up. And so that just makes you very overprotective of your children. I did and still have my father now. I care for him, but I have a wonderful childhood. And that's great that God gave you. Feel blessed if you've had a good childhood, that God gave you a great childhood, great parents, not a dysfunctional childhood, but dysfunctional parents and family. And the bad part from my childhood was not only were we jerked away from a very good family, a very stable family, but we were brought to a completely different territory from where we grew up at into a completely different world because you come from the suburbs of Michigan near Lake Erie, where you're living on a farm in a beautiful home with your grandparents, and you're used to taking baths every day and having running water to southeastern Kentucky that's in world it's still stuck back in the 20s and 30s with nothing where you've never seen mountains and now you're living in deep mountains up on a mountain in a shack with no running water, no clothes, with a manic depressive mom and an alcoholic dad that shoots your house up when he gets drunk. That's pretty hard. And then we moved in around demons. Neighbors were complete and thorough. Demons to live around. They were so mean. They didn't like us because we had little northern accents at that time. We were uh, little proper kids. We grew up. We had a I didn't talk country when I first came to Kentucky. I talked Southern or proper. And we were completely in a completely culture shock coming from Michigan to that was clean and to a complete trash dump. We walked down a mountain of trash to even get to the house that we lived in. And then it was just not good. Then your mom goes into a complete depression, and it's not good. It was not a good life growing up in Eastern Kentucky. And I don't regret leaving Eastern Kentucky at all, y'all. In fact, if I never went back there again, I would be just fine. I felt my home in Tennessee. You know, I talked to my mom's sister yesterday. She's 85 years old. And I talked to her yesterday. And she sounded just like my mom. I think about if my life would have been different, if we would have went to Michigan or if we would have stayed in Michigan, how much different than our life would have been. But I also know that I have cousins up there that I grew up with were just like my sisters and brothers that lived with my grandma when we lived with her, and they're atheist. I have one that grew up in Catholic church and she's a complete atheist. In fact, she mocks God on YouTube or on Facebook and stuff. So me and hers had many of arguments because she knows better. So I think that maybe God brought us down here to make us suffer because I was find myself closer to Him, and maybe if I'd have stayed up there, I may have drifted away. I don't know. It's weird. I think sometimes when you go through the hard times, you find yourself closer to God that way. I'm literally the only child and the only grandchild, so I cannot relate to any of this. I know. I know. Drunk Luna. Yes, Kentucky is God's country, but Harlan's a whole nother level. Harlan is a whole nother level. It's in hollers. There's nothing there. The people are just not nice. The neighbors we lived in, they wouldn't even let us sit on their grass, like around the sidewalks. They were so mean. They were pure devils. You want to go to Kentucky? There is parts of Kentucky that's absolutely beautiful. And there is parts that I do miss of Kentucky, but I don't miss living in Harlan. Where did I find my cowbell? I found my cowbell at Five and Below, and I decorated it. Harlan is like the bottom of the world. It's a complete different world. What does isn't it, Ada Cox? It's like totally, completely. You're in a different world. It's like a enclosure of just. Listen. You think Ben Hill Road is bad? Y'all ain't seen nothing till you go to Harlan, Kentucky. It's a bad, bad place. It's not bad, bad. It's just there's nothing there. People are very, very poor there, and it's just, yeah. Your siblings are saved at Daisy, so it was meant to be where you were put. I do believe that we wouldn't have been as close to God if we were raised in Michigan. Like, I wanted to be with my grandma. Have you ever thought about moving back to Michigan? No, because that's not my home. Even though most of my mom's family lives there, all of my mom's family, all of my mom's brothers and sisters, 8 of them lives there. Still, they're all alive but my mother. And I think it was because of lack of health care in Harlan. But um I would I just don't know any of them. I got aunts that I don't even know, my mom's sisters that I don't even really know. Like my mom's sister, one of her younger sisters, I don't even know her. I've not seen her and over 20 some years, and she don't reach out. My mom's only one of my mom's sisters reaches out to us, and yeah, it's no, they don't reach out. We actually inherited my grandma's house, but because my uncle took care of my grandma, and we were partial inheritance in my grandma's house, and my uncle paid for all of her care. He paid for our mother's funeral. He paid for our mother to be brought back from where she passed away in another state. We decided to let him have her home. And I'm sure we'd be welcomed if we wanted to go up there and live somewhere, but I just wouldn't. That's not my home. The South is my home now. Miss Daisy, who is your biggest Christian influence? Your mom or your grandmother? My grandmother. My grandmother, then mom. But my grandmother was a devoted Catholic who prayed at night till she fell asleep. Literally, that was my fondest memories of my grandma praying on her knees till she fell asleep at night. My mom gave her a hard way to go. Your mom had returned to Michigan before passing away. She went there for my grandma's funeral. My grandma's funeral. My grandma died in December, and my mom died 6 months later. That was the last time my mom went to there to see my grandma after she passed away. Then 1 month after that, she ended up in ICU, and she passed away 6 months ago. 6 months later. Everyone has their crosses they have to bear. You have to look at for good. Exactly, pixie dust. I agree. That's just part of it. And I pray for my cousin every day that she finds God again. It's almost like, okay, so you're an atheist, you don't believe in God. That's fine. But why do you have to keep posting stuff that mock God and make fun of God and make fun of people that does believe in God? That's what I don't get about her. She grew up with my grandma. In fact, she got to actually be raised by my grandma. I got to be with my grandma till I was 8. My grandmother was my Christian influence also. She walked a mile to church twice a week for 70 years. Aw, your puppy's name is Pixie? My grandma is the most amazing Christian lady I know. And let me tell you something about those little Christian ladies like that, y'all. When they pass away, they die beautiful deaths. God just takes them with their family surrounded them. One little lady I know, the family was holding her hand and praying for her when she took her last breath. Like those little Christian ladies, they or men, either one, they die the most peaceful, beautiful deaths they are. And believe me, I've seen a lot of deaths, and the little Christian ladies and men that spent their whole life in church. It's like God gives them a grace. It gives them grace. He gives them grace. No doubt about it. And that is what I talk about grace, because grace to me is more important than any money in the world. God's grace is more important. Your great grandmother lived to be 105 years old. Wow. That is blessing. That is a blessing. It says in the Bible, if you honor your mother and father, that you'll live a long life. She must have really honored her mother and father. But that's hard to do sometimes when they don't honor you. Everyone will know Jesus no matter how far they stray. We pray and let Jesus work on them through them. Yes, ma'am. Yes, my grandmother was 105. She was active up to 100. She just went to sleep. That's what I'm talking about right there, Debbie. Just going to sleep. Yes, ma'am. She received a letter from the president. Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome. Please pray for my granddad. He has multiple myeloma diabetes and 1 kidney. He isn't doing well at all. We pray for a healing and health in Jesus' name, Drunk Luna, for sure. Because that's not our destination. Our destination, God didn't give us a bad destination to be sick and stuff. That only comes from the evil one. That's not our destiny. People says, "Oh, it's God's will." No. Premature death is not God's will. It absolutely not is not God's will. The devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. My grandparents lived past 100. They lived in PR and only ate farm grown food and animals. That's why, diamonds. That right there is the reason why they lived past 100. They lived off the land. They didn't get all these growth hormones and everything that we get nowadays. I would love to have had parents to care about me. Oh, you know what God is love? You might not have had an earthly father, but you have a father in heaven that loves you unlimitedly. And one day he'll look you in the eyes and say, "I love you, my beloved daughter," because he will call you daughter. Did you guys know that when you hit 100, most of Americans is free to you? Most of America is a free to you. Amusement parks. Really? That's good to know, but you probably ain't going to be able to get around them. Praying for your grandfather. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. But listen, guys, I've been on here almost 2 hours. I think I'm going to go ahead and jump off for the night. I might come back a little later on if I can't sleep and just do a generalized chit chat. But I did make this live stream about Audrey Cunningham. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end it for tonight. I love you guys. Y'all stay prayed up. Stay safe out here on these YouTube streets. Please like and subscribe if you've not liked and subscribed to this channel. And go on over to Beautiful Designs. I'm going to be doing a live stream over there. We're doing a reef and some crafting. Good night, y'all. Please hit that subscribe button if you've not subscribed. Stay safe out here on these YouTube streets. Stay prayed up. God bless y'all. If I don't see you back tonight, here's the link to Beautiful Designs if you've not subscribed. Going over, I might even do a live tonight on there. No, probably not. But y'all take care. God bless y'all. I love y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. If I don't come back on tonight, I may do it. I don't know. Good night, everybody. Bye.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever try.